I'd like to address a little bit about maybe something that a lot of folks have been feeling, and I've addressed it in different forms, but to some degree I wanted to address how the world sort of takes a toll on people. So if you're feeling, the exhaustion, the fighting it, just the having to deal with stuff, emotional issues, health issues, and so on and so on, don't, by no means, man, should you feel alone in this. This is really normal. It's normal to feel overwhelmed in a world that isn't real, which is kind of strange if you think about it. If it's not real, it shouldn't be able to do anything. Well, that's true. But it does, and that's the tricky part. The world has no real power over us. It's not real. It's fabricated by our minds. It's this what it all comes down to. It's a hallucination in our minds, but it's a mass hallucination, and it's been given mass hysteria and mass power, seemingly. So we come into a world of mass and give it apparent mass power, and yet it has none. And so for children of God that are really holy beings, gods, goddesses, let's say, to enter into a world, to take them into a world like this one is so disempowering, it can only be exhausting. Think about this. How would you feel about seeing a courageous, large lion in a cage that's barely big enough for him to move? Even though, ferocious kind of lion. Take a bear and you see some of the people that have put them in cages, dogs in tiny little cages. Even when we see chickens and so forth kept in these small confined spaces, not to mention humans too, in captivities and so forth in history. Think about this, and it doesn't sound or feel empowering at all. It's disempowering because you're taking this king of the jungle, as it were, and putting them in these little confines. And when you look at that, you and I look at that, it's like something feels off when we see something like that. When we see people, in photos in Auschwitz or whatever, we know something's wrong with that picture. And it's very much the same thing. One of the many reasons such pictures can turn us off or kind of disgust us is because deep, deep, deep down inside we know that it's a mirror of us. We're on a planet where we seem confined, not allowed to live freely, not allowed to be ourselves, and that is exhausting. It's depressing and it's exhausting. So naturally it takes a toll on the bodies that we made to, for now, inhabit, so that we could then inhabit the planet, the earth plane. It's amazing because when you think about it, how often time flies when you're having fun. How often when you're doing what's natural, when you feel love and forgiveness, for example, or when you start your day and you remember to start your day with God, and you do some prayer meditation, and you call in that presence, and all these great things happen. You start to feel a shift inside because you're actually aligning with who you really are. We're aligning with who we really are when we're doing such a thing. When you really get out of the way and you do some healing work, some artwork, parenting, or whatever it is, when we get out of the way, God, there's just this different vibe to it. Like, it's almost like saying, wow, something just really flowed today. Something was so easy today. And it's kind of cool. And look what happens when it's the opposite. When you're dealing with people that challenge and wear you down, professionals, doctors, whomever they may be, once again, they don't know what's wrong with you, and more pills that give you more side effects. I mean, when people aren't able, it could be an architect working on your house or a contractor, and they just mess around with things that aren't working, and they try to cover it up with other things that aren't working. And I'm not looking for particular professions to jab at. I'm saying in any profession. When someone's not able to give you the right answers, and it keeps you kind of hooked, and yet no answers, no outcomes, it's exhausting, and that's what this world does. So who do we turn to? Teachers, ministers, rabbis, parents, gurus, whatever, any type of leadership. Turn to your government and they can't help you. They can't save you. In fact, they cause some of our problems. They may be doing what they can, their best or whatever you call it, but it's not helping. And the medical profession, they're not helping. And so on and so on and so on. Sometimes we can say, well, we've made really great advances in medicine. I don't know. There's still things that kill mass amounts of people. I don't know if going back to master herbologists in ancient, Oriental medicine practitioners in Asia or herbalists in Europe. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes, the simplest remedies, aromatherapies and herbal, concoctions and so forth. They did some things, but then there were illnesses. But we have illnesses today. What we've gotten really good at is covering up symptoms, masking symptoms, and then we call that successful. So I guess let's today be talking about peel the mask off and expose that we're not really that much better off in many regards. And if we are at all, it happens in cycles and loops. It'll look like we're doing better. All of a sudden there's an AIDS virus, HIV or whatever, So smallpox, in my grandparents' generation, wiped out in this country alone. I think it was a third of the population. I mean, that's only like a generation or two ago. And you think, wow, things are just great compared to ancient times. I don't know, man. Do you hear about that epidemic very often? It's swept under the rug, and it was in America. You go, really? I mean, I didn't know we had something like that here. Yeah. And it was mass. I mean, it was like a third of the population, although some studies might try to minimize it. Others will tell, more accurately. Things like this happen, and this world is exhausting, man. We're trying to, lifetime after lifetime, we incarnate thinking, this time I'm going to get my stuff right. Or this time we're going to get our stuff right. Whether it's in by and large the planet or just ourselves. And it doesn't seem to happen. So then we say, well, I'm going to rely on healers or yogis, gurus, spiritual teachers. And though they consistently let us down as well. And, there's a couple of important things to understand about this. This world is an illusion. It's been manufactured by our ego selves and has no intention of ever really coming out of the pit that it is. But that doesn't mean that we're stuck to it. I'm saying the ego has created it to keep everybody bound, and that's what will happen unless we wake up. We can't keep our ego empowered and expect to create a different world. So when you guys watch shows like this, presentations like this, you might be going, yeah, man, I totally get it. Yeah, this is exhausting. It is tiring, and it's true, and we all agree, great, that's fine. At the same time, we have a different approach when it comes to what do we do about it. Even if most people on the planet agree planet Earth has some problems, they just can't seem to agree on how to deal with it. I don't care if it's the number of pollutants and plastics on the planet, or whether it's nuclear waste, or whether it's illness, or emotional issues, psychological issues. I mean, people don't have a whole lot of solutions. And just as soon as you come up with one solution, there's another problem. Because the solution isn't real, the problems aren't real. So there's these little cat and mouse games that go on this planet. And you and I, people, we let it exhaust us. We let it kind of get us down. And it's hard not to. And what really adds to the problem is that when you start to feel down and you reach out for your usual sanity, could be your favorite show. I'm not saying that those are solutions, just a little bit of grounding, like some sanity. Reach out for your friend you can trust, or your partner, or your parent, whoever it is. And you find that they too are floundering. They too are lost. You hope to reach to your accountant, and say, wow, can I count on you to be there for me when it comes to my checkbook or my taxes? And you found out that their life is out of control in its own way. Makes you go, uh-oh. Who can I trust anymore? And as a spiritual teacher, I think I'm strange in a lot of ways. We all know that. In a playful way I say that, but In a weird kind of a way, I've just thought, as a spiritual teacher, I'd like to do my best to live up to the integrities people might expect from a spiritual teacher. I'm not, capable of being perfect in all people's eyes, because all eyes are different. But I just thought there's a standard we need to live up to, you and I, as parents or whatever roles we play. So when we work on ourselves, instead of saying, where's the sanity in the world, it's going to keep letting us down. And when something is supportive and loving, give thanks for it, man, because it could be gone tomorrow. But what we can count on more is our own day-to-day choices for sanity. So reach for that when you can. Give thanks when you find it. And, having had clients over the years and with struggles of some of the deepest traumas and suicidal ideations, and and I don't blame them, man. It's a very heavy place to live and to try to exist. So if it applies to you, don't feel like you're failing to feel these things. Just stop and say, if I've ever felt tired, exhausted, if you've ever been tempted to run away from your children and partners and to just run away for sanity because it's too much, or any other thing that seems appalling to some, just breathe and say, God, it's not that far off for me to have thought these things. And I'm not sitting here telling you to do these things. I'm saying you're not wrong for feeling it. You're not wrong for feeling exhausted. You're not wrong for feeling alone or whatever. Because this place is very much those kinds of vibes. But counting on ourselves to make a healthier choice is what we need to work on. Counting on ourselves to say, you know what, I would love for so-and-so to be there, such and such to be there, but they're not always. And so I got to remind myself to have my daily connection, to on a daily basis say, what I can count on is God, and connecting with God and the feeling of God. The gurus, the teachers, the spiritual teachers, you would think that they're going to be the ones. Your accountant should be the one who financially keeps you in order, and then they misappropriate funds. Then what do you do with that? Your lawyer's supposed to be your legal counsel, and sometimes they throw you under the bus because they're friends with the opposing lawyer, and so on. What do you do with that? Your parents, they're not always going to think in your best interests. They're supposed to somewhat, but they do. They just don't sometimes. So you think about the things in this world. You hire somebody to do a job. You think they're going to do it. They come first as far as they're concerned. So this world keeps doing that. So it's the same when you get to my doctor or my healer, my spiritual teacher, or whomever it may be. There are so many stories that bounce around, my God. I've always said this, never confuse the likes of Buddha or Jesus with your authors of today, your spiritual authors of today. There's no comparison. Don't even try it. And don't let them do that. My God, it's kind of like why the church doesn't call people saints until after they're dead, because they're like, we never know what they're going to do next. It's like that. When is it going to be clearer to people that we need to try to live it instead of just channel a good being, but not being a good being? Edgar Cayce was a pretty integral person. He was really well intended, and still, in his own readings, he would have, a little bit of criticisms about him not eating right or smoking a bit too much, and which was more kind of acceptable in those days. So fashionable or acceptable or whatever you want to call it. But, I'm thinking, God, we're entering a time when we're asked to live it. And I think that's a bit much on people. And I think that people's nervous systems are going to find it to be too much when they start realizing more and more we're being asked. It's an internal call, like it's being activated inside. Be it, be it, be it. And people's nervous systems are reacting, going, I don't know how. I mean, this has never been modeled. Almost never been modeled. But I mean, not in this lifetime. It's not been modeled to us. And I don't know, man. I have in my lifetime, I've tried to kind of go that route. I tried to live it as close as I could. And sometimes I get a little down on myself when I slip or have made mistakes along the way, selfish moves at different times in my life, just a little momentary selfish thought or a momentary taking care of a personal need instead of the greater good. Fortunately, I can say it's rare. But if it happened even once, I can kind of be hard on myself with that and say, dang it, I would like to have done that different. I'm appreciative for the conscience. So guys, if you have a conscience that's a bit stringent, that's trying to keep you in order, I think it's a good thing. Just don't let it get out of control. If you're the type that doesn't have a conscience, and meaning you're too out of control too much of the time, there's something that needs to change there. And so call yourself to it, because if you don't, the universe is going to call you to it. Karma is made up, in a sense, karma is like our conscience. That's all it is. It's just us calling ourselves on things. And that doesn't mean you say, well, then if I don't have a conscience, I don't have to worry about karma. No, because it's unconscious karma, you see. It's not just the stuff you're aware of. All too often people try that tactic and it's not going to work, So think in terms of, this world seems kind of insane. Where do I go for sanity? And some people will say to you, don't go to teachers, don't go to spiritual teachers or gurus, because that's old school. We're supposed to all do it ourselves now. Listen, that's partly true and partly not true. It's partly not true because the people saying it are amongst the most screwed up people of all, saying we have to go to our inner self for our answers. Really good one. How you doing with that? How is that working for you? And most of those people are the ones that are the most messed up, looking for an excuse they're trying to make yet another excuse to not have something to follow, like a lifestyle or a higher consciousness. So they just go with this, I'm going to be my own guide, and they don't even have a guide they're listening to other than their ego without realizing it. So we say they're partly right and partly not right. They're partly right in that we do have to learn to go within. But to go within to activate this beingness, this learning to live these principles, that's true. Going within also doesn't mean listening to, however, to your own inner guide, the one that screws up your life. It means when you go within, go beyond the voice within, little v, voice within, to the greater voice of God within. So that's true. That part they're right, they're just not getting it and saying it right. They're right, go within, but not to the little self. At the same time, when they say steer clear of, they're partly right with that too. Steer clear of the out of integrity teachers. And the simplest thing to deal with there is don't follow authors. I'm not saying people that have happened to have written a book. I'm saying don't follow authors. Some of the well-known, billion-dollar selling authors that have spiritual things to say, they're still just authors, meaning their first priority is to sell you a book, not to live the principles, and not really even to teach you how to live the principles. They're talking about it, and they know that you like reading about it. And then they'll talk about something else in another book, and then you'll read. So I'm going to talk, you read, I'll talk, you read, and in the midst of it all, I'm selling you something. When does it come to, I live this, and here's how it works? And then you say, wow, let me implement that in my life. See, it's different. Talk, read, experience. The being and experience. And we integrate that into our lives. Now, here's the tricky part. Those who do say, I'm not going to just talk and have you read it. You're going to live it. Let's practice living it. They're accused of being gurus, cult leaders, and cult leaders are wackos. They that stuff is not good, obviously. But you can't throw every spiritual teacher and guru into that group. A guru is unfortunately now a misused word. We commonly ask somebody, like the word karma. When you say karma, people don't go, excellent. They associate karma with, negative. Guru, they're a guru. So sometimes I have to use the word yogi instead, because you might still respect the word yogi instead of a guru. So it's like, it's all messed up, and there are people out there writing articles here and there in this world, about spiritual teachers, spiritual authors even, healers. They want to go after everybody. And although this is going to sound a little like a tirade, I'm telling you, please shut them down, say no. Let people know that you're not interested. Don't buy what they're selling so that they don't keep selling it. Because what they're after is always the fame and the money. So if you don't make them famous and give them money for doing evil work by trying to crucify people, character assassination and so forth, then they'll have to go elsewhere, because they need to. It's about the fame and money. If they're not getting it, you'll starve them out in a good way. they did that to Edgar Casey in his time. They did it to, you know, Sir Isaac Newton. Anyone that was able to be a mystic of sorts. They take their hits. And fortunately, there's some people that are less attacked. Like, I don't believe Peace Pilgrim was attacked a lot, or Mother Teresa a lot. And I'm grateful for that. And if they were, I don't want to know about it, because I don't need to hear about what the evil-minded people do more and more to us. I'm just saying, there are some that have taken it a little less than others. Jesus took a hit in his way. Buddha took his hits when he was alive. You know, it happens, and that's part of this world. But be awake enough to know that and not feed into it. There's also people that are just anti-healers, fundamental religions of different kinds, and they're going to go after you. I've said this before, but if you look up Unity Church, you're going to find, in some of the Google terms down below, you're going to find cult. Course in Miracles, you're going to find cult. I mean, there's people out there that want to ruin anything that isn't their own thing. And it's really strange that people want to make a living or a lifestyle out of hate. However, that's their trip, and I'm asking you, try not to feed into that sort of thing. I do my best to just not even bother, because it's ridiculous. But the fact that people would sort of try to make a lifestyle or a living out of it is astounding, but not surprising on this planet. They're part of hate, and they're going to tell you that they're out there trying to save you from the bad guys, and yet the bad guys aren't knocking on my door selling me a paper. The bad guys aren't, that you're warning me about, they're not calling me. They're not on the internet, doing their thing in my face left and right, telling me who I should be afraid of and hate. It's weird. The guys you're warning me about, they're not doing that. So I think that things are so twisted in the world, that's not a clear picture to people anymore. They don't know what to believe, so to speak. So, part of what I'm saying is that, when it comes to teachers, just don't confuse them. Just don't confuse authors with teachers, authentic teachers. And then when you do have an author you like or a teacher you like, remember, just share, learn what you can from them, and that's it. I read Edgar Casey material and so forth. Never thought about his personal life, nor is it my business. I don't need to. I don't need to worry about it. So try to divide these kinds of things and not let them overwhelm you. In life as well, your teachers. The reason I brought up teachers, healers, is because they're one of the things we look towards as hope. And then the world has made us feel hopeless about teachers and healers by condemning them or doing character assassination on them. So you're going to feel worn down. You yourselves know that the medical profession doesn't seem to be helping, but don't overly condemn it. If you need an aspirin for a headache right now, take it. Don't let people tell you, watch out, it's got something bad in it. They're doing the same thing. Spiritual teachers are aspirin. Everybody's trying to condemn everything. So be careful. Find peace. And if you need an aspirin, take it. Find peace. And if something I say makes sense, integrate it. That's all. Find your own little ecosystem and develop it for yourself. That's what it means by it's time for people to awaken their own inner self. It means take responsibility. It doesn't mean only listen to your own mind or opinions when they're still broken by your ego. It means, wake up and take responsibility. It also means clean up your own space. Don't allow toxins in it, meaning environmental toxins, but it also means toxic people. And, there's differences between. And so watch for the authenticity of some and the effectiveness. Don't forget. If all this is still confusing in any way, pause and say, Jesus himself told me what to do with this. He said, test the spirits. Test them. Spirits don't just mean literally spirits. Test the spirit of something. If you don't know if this magazine is worth reading, test it. Read it. Just check it out. Buddha says check things out before you determine your opinions about them. Guys, check it out. Take responsibility. Check it out. This doctor, John of God, Michael Mirdad, Joe Blow, the local florist, whomever. I mean, don't just hear stuff and spread stuff. Listen, pay attention. And this magazine, I read it and I go, this is mostly conspiracy fear stuff. So it's not for me. I don't go and open a website to hate them. start telling everybody they should hate him too. It's just, no, it's not for me. That's all. Be the change you'd like to be in the world. You know, that means so many things. Be the change you'd like to see in this world. You know, all the changes you'd like to make, become them. Be different. And check things out. You know, whether it's John of God. I have no opinion, you can say. Never heard him, never met him. Hey, did you ever hear that, you know, this certain guru did this or that? Yeah, I wasn't there. People don't know what to do with that kind of attitude coming from us, because they're trying to break us down, and it wears us out. It's exhausting for you to tell me how many things I should be afraid of today. It's exhausting for you to tell me how many things I should hate today. So I don't want to hear it. You know, I'll check it out. If it works for me, I'll integrate it into my life, and if it doesn't, I won't. I don't call any, I don't know, I can't even think of any author, teacher, anything I've ever come across that I've ever thought to be like I'm a follower of them. I respect and believe in the accuracy of Edgar Cayce's work, no doubt about it. I like the way this author puts this. I like the way that artist painted that. I've never become a guru of something, I mean a disciple of something. Just never made sense. What am I? Nothing of this world is real. It's going to just be strange to go and attach myself to something. But what I do is this, and I recommend this. There's a difference between all the spiritual teachers, healers, and so on and so on and so on. It's very simple. One of the ways to discern what's right for you guys. And it's not for you guys, but for you guys. You know, for you, you know, for all of us, folks. It's one of these things where you go, well, someone claims to be a teacher, someone claims to be a healer, whatever. Here's the bottom line. If something or someone that I'm listening to or watching, reading, listening to, you know, in some capacity, if they do not help me lessen the quality or quantity of ego in me and replace it with a greater quantity of God, they really serve no purpose. That's all. And I don't have to, you know, again, send out hate mail about it. All I know is you said you're a healer, but yet you're not at all helping me disperse some ego. Ego created pain and problems. So if you want to medicate my pain and it goes away, I haven't really accessed my ego. So tell me how I can do that. Help me with that. Encourage, support my process of that. That's a healer and a spiritual teacher. A healer or spiritual teacher is ultimately going to have the same effect but in different modalities. One is teaching, speaking. The other is perhaps doing work on you, like it could be body work or it could be some other form, could be counseling, but it's a therapying of some kind. In either case, if they're really authentic, and this is how you know if it's real spiritual work, and spiritual work is the only real work. If you're not working on the soul and mind, then you're not really working on anything, because that's the roots of everything. That's the only cause of everything, the consciousness. Everything comes from consciousness. So don't just rub an ache and tell me I'm better. Don't just use some little, alakazam, kind of boom and wow, this is better. Don't sell me on the latest anything. If it doesn't help me release some more ego, to recognize and release more ego, and or refill me with more of God's presence, then it's not authentic healing. And I don't want to know anything about it. I'm not interested. That's all. And that's partly what I was saying about myself. I mean, I really stay with that sometimes so seriously that, that I'm not even interested in much on this planet, for that matter, if it doesn't relate to those two things, because they're all that seem to matter to me. I know that I can be a little, too serious about that sometimes, but I'd rather be too serious than too lax on it, because it just lends towards problems. But I do my best to stay as balanced about it as I can. But I'm, balance not meaning illusion and reality, but just to not be too harsh on myself when I slip. But that's the key, man. We're here, we're learning, but learning what? Learning to say less ego and learning to say more God. You're not here just to learn academics. You're not here just to learn to memorize more spiritual books. I don't care. You can tell me, oh, I've memorized the Upanishads. Good for you. How much of it have you applied? I've memorized the Vedas. I can recite such and such backwards. I know chapters and verses of A Course in Miracles. I don't care. The most popular teachers of A Course in Miracles on this planet are some of the greatest hypocrites in my experiences with them. And it's such a bummer. But I don't need to deal with their hypocritical lives. If they happen to have written anything good, let me read it. Nice, that's a nice statement, and I'll integrate it if it's real for me. And that's all. I don't go out of my way to promote them, and I have at times. I have at times tried to say, hey, here's a little this teacher, that teacher, just to kind of help their careers along or whatever it might be, just to try to, be a good person and help network or whatever. But then I end up, sort of biting my tongue because I realize I sometimes, then inadvertently turn people on to somebody that isn't really living it. Now, does that mean their book is a bad book? No. Read their book. Just don't listen to them. Don't necessarily get involved with them in any other level. So it gets really tricky to navigate this world. Knowing, I don't want to be, I never name names and that sort of thing. I don't want to do character assassination. But I then have to just be careful not to overly promote people that I don't believe in. So it gets very, very tricky. Humans are going to be humans. So teachers, if they're helping you erase some ego, I think it's great, whoever they are. If they're helping you connect and add more God into your life, I personally think that's the best. That's the great stuff right there. If we, as teachers, healers, are failing you in that, don't forget you got to do it yourself. I mean, even if we offer ideas on how to, it still comes down to you practicing it. So you've got to remember that. You play a part in all this, yourselves. So one of the beautiful things when it comes to healing is imagine whether it's therapy, like verbal therapy, or whether they're holding your head as they're doing cranial sacral work, deep tissue work, Reiki work, whatever it is. Just imagine the hands are just a symbol of I'm connecting. I, the healer, am connecting. I, the recipient, they're connecting with me. Wow. There's a connection being made. As soon as that connection's being made, I get to choose. I'm going to let go and let God. See, I don't have to just look at what are their certificates and how famous are they. It's in my decision. I get to decide what's going to happen for me today with a teacher, a healer, whatever they are. A doctor included. Everybody has a chance of being wonderful. Doctors, the medical profession's kind of screwed up because it's power and money, but that doesn't mean all doctors, nurses are screwed up by any means. So attract someone that's good to you, man. Attract someone that you can tell there's an integrity as much as possible. And then at some point you got to let go and let God. You can't, say, well, I'm going to sit here while I'm having surgery done. No anesthetic, please, because I want to sit and analyze your behaviors and make sure you're completely in integrity every second. It's not going to work. At some point, I'm going to let go and let God. This person's a human being. They might make mistakes. I certainly may not agree with the kind of music they listen to or the movies they watch. But right here, right now, does it feel right for me to say, this is the person I can trust? And if it is, then shut up and let go. Don't yes, but. Just try and let go as best you can. If there's going to be lessons, there's going to be lessons. But do your best to let go and let God. That allows a greater chance of only miracles happening. Man, I hope this is making sense because there's such tricky nuances to it all. But the ideal concept of healing is of the consciousness. Then why have somebody doing body work on you, surgery on you? Because while you do surgery or body work or whatever you do for me, counseling, whatever you do, while you're doing it, my choices, my intentions are set right enough, high enough, powerful enough that I'm going to be doing some really cool things. You're going to be doing your work, and while you're doing it, I'm going to let go and let God, and then I'm going to watch what happens in my mind. Because it's not about what you're doing to tissue, it's in my mind. So while you're doing, say, Reiki, or while you're doing counseling, and I start letting you unwind my tensions, my spine, my organs, my meridians, whatever you're working on. While this is happening, I let go and go within, and I start floating. Great Beatles song. Turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream. It is not dying. Okay? Tomorrow Never Knows. It's a song off the Revolver album. Anyway, turn off your mind, relax, float downstream. It's not dying. It means it's surrendering. It is being, he says in the song. Nice. So I'm going to just get into that zone while this person's doing work on me. They become a conduit for greater things, and it's not actually what you think. Yes, they might be able to move energy, they might be able to do this and that. That's all I think fantastic. But nothing others can do for us is more important than what we're doing inside. Not quote unquote for ourselves in the linear sense. What we're doing with ourselves. So as you're working on me, I'm letting go and I'm letting go. Unraveling, and tensions and joints are unlocking in the body, and wow, all of a sudden images start coming to mind. What was that? That is actually more important than the body work being done, because when you're unwinding, chiropractic surgery or any kind of work, when you're unwinding, you're using the opportunity to see images, to let go for feelings, images, anything. Because it could be past life memories, it could be unhealed wounds from childhood, it could be images, flashes of people. Why did they pop in? They would be popping in because true healing is about less ego and more God. So when images are coming in that represent pain, they're of the ego. People that acted egotistic in our lives, sure, but also people that have a charge with our ego. So if they come up, they're there to let go. You're doing more for yourself during the healing than you would have if you'd have just let those amazing healers work on you, even, assuming they are amazing. If they're mediocre, mediocre. If they're amazing, great, go ahead, do your amazing work. I'll just sit here and wait for you to fix me. Instead, actually, you go ahead and do your work. I'm going to participate. I'm going to be right here, and I'm going to go with it. I'm going to participate, and then where do you draw the line? Maybe when you go and have your car repaired and you're sitting in the waiting room, maybe sometimes instead of just waiting for someone to fix your life, you instead participate and you think, I think I'm going to go for a walk outside and sit down, or where I can be alone and just tune in. Is there anything I need to learn from this experience with my car? Wait, wow. The car could be just to take better care, to do maintenance on your life and your own soul, not just your car. So it was a maintenance lesson. Got it. Or it can be, there's a signal. One of the signal lights on the back of the car is broke. What does it mean? Oh, maybe I haven't been signaling accurately, properly, consistently with loved ones of what I'm doing with my life. My partner, I haven't been letting them know what I'm doing. Wow, I got to get better at sending the right signals. You see? Emergency flashers aren't working. What does that mean? Whoa, look at that. Brakes, transmission, whatever it happens to be. Maybe the car's overheating a lot. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm just saying you sit down and look at it. I mean, you could say overheating is temper. But overheating could also be, man, I'm parched. I'm dehydrated. It could be. You just turn everything into a miraculous, I'm here to experience the multidimensionality of what my lessons are. Multidimensionality not meaning to overanalyze the experience, but just to say that, I'm going to drop into the wow of this. And ultimately, I am saying to some degree, not don't listen to teachers, don't listen to healers. I didn't say that at all. I'm saying use them. That's fine. But use the right consciousness to discern which ones are right for you, and take responsibility for which ones you not only attract, but which ones you participate with. And if they don't work for you, you just let it go. You don't have to do hate mail. That's not my thing. Thank you. However, out of all the gurus, out of all the yogis, out of all the teachers, they all have something to offer, potentially. I'm talking about authentic ones. They all have something to offer. But did you know that they all answer to one common being, if we want to call it a being, the Holy Spirit of God? They're all working without knowing it. Sometimes they don't know it. If they don't know it, that wouldn't be my kind of teacher to choose, see? Because if they don't know that they're a humble servant of God, and they think they're the end all, that I'm already done with them. I don't have to hate them. I'm just done. I'm good. I'm going to go on to someone who, because I like that humility piece. Some of you have asked me, Michael, would you be my mentor? Michael, could you be my teacher? Some of you say, Michael's my teacher. You write it on the Facebook things. I'm totally fine with that. I'm not saying that you're wrong or bad. I'm fine with that. You can call me your teacher because I'm a teacher. It's right to call me that. But remember, I'm your teacher, but your master. If you're listening to me as a teacher, your master isn't me. If you think it's me, then you haven't listened. I'm your teacher. I'm a teacher and your teacher. If you call me that, great. And your healer, a healer, great. But the healer of healers is the one I answer to. Christ and the Holy Spirit. And if you interviewed me, if you sat $1 billion in front of me and said, I'm giving you this to be I couldn't, because I'm not the one and only teacher. There is one that we all answer to, all yogis, all masters, everyone. Yogananda told you, despite him being a great yogi, master, he still said, and what? It's all about Christ. That's right. If a teacher forgets the humility, it might not be the right teacher to listen to. I'm a really good, I think, teacher, effective spiritual counselor, healer, and so on. And I think that there's a term that I use because I call it living mastery. So some people think of me as a master, but I'm not putting on a turban and having you bow to me. A master, I call it, we all learn to live mastery. I have a living mastery intensive where I teach people how to awaken mastery concepts, consciousness in our being. So yes, how could I sell you on a workshop about awakening mastery if I couldn't call myself that to some degree? Yes, but not in the sense with a capital M. You see? There's the master of masters, the one that all of us, we're honing our skills as gods and goddesses. See, some people think that's arrogant, but yet Jesus told us, you're all gods and goddesses, okay? Well, let's just go with it. We just don't act like it. So let's start acting like it by being it, living it. So ultimately, we are as God created us to be, in God's image, holy, perfect beings. But we forgot. So we then descended into God's goddesses, then we descended into demigods and goddesses, then we descended into the hero legends of, ancient Greece, eventually humans, and then just dense humans. And everybody walks around with that consciousness. Once you became that dense, you don't remember how to wake up anymore. So we reached out. Is there anybody left with a phone line to God? Oh, there's one, and we love them and honor them, and that's good. Sometimes, however, we worship them, and that's not so good. Honor them. Just respect them for what they've done, and get what you can from them so you can awaken. Get what you can from us so you can awaken. And when I say us, so I'm one of these. You reach out to me to get something, but wait. What about when your own child reaches to you for something? Aren't you then doing your own version of this in your own way? Absolutely. So try to come from that higher self the way a teacher is supposed to come from that higher self and not from the ego self. Live the standards as best you can. Own when you slip. We all slip. In mind, body, and soul. We all slip. But a true, humble master is able to say it and say, oops, or, I'd like to have done this a little differently, and then make corrections, whether they're micro adjustments or major, macro adjustments. Then make the adjustments. But if you say, I haven't made mistakes, I don't make mistakes, now you're becoming a little megalomaniac, a little narcissistic, or whatever, dangerous, and you're not really representing God anymore. And so pride cometh before a fall. And then we learn the hard way more than the easy way. So we all have it before us to be as God created us to be. And it's time to start living that. But at the same time, one way to do that is by recognizing those who do represent God very well and respecting them and appreciating them. Don't allow people to crucify every person that tries. Don't feed into that. And say no when you can. Say an honest word if you hear somebody bad-mouthing a teacher, a healer, and you know damn well they haven't met them or worked with them. Say something about this beautiful, lady, peace pilgrim, walking around this elderly lady, walking around the world, the country, telling people about love and God and peace and so on. You run into somebody and you mention them. Well, they were not a Christian. They were not my religion. They were not this religion or that. So she couldn't have been good. You can just let it go. You can. Certainly don't feed it. Don't buy into it. Don't contribute to it. Your options, let it go, or sometimes you'll be inspired to say something back. Like, that makes no sense. Did you meet her? Do you know anything about her? Really? Have you read her book? Are there quotes of hers that you can tell me, that I might have missed something? There's some evil kind of quotes? Share some with me. Likely they won't have anything. Well, I heard. Really? Well, that reminds me of Jesus saying, when your ears, I'm using slight paraphrase, when your eyes offend thee, cast them out. When your hands offend thee, cut them off. When your ears offend you, same thing, guys. When these people say, well, I heard, then you'd be better to have no ears, because you shouldn't be listening to garbage. You could say to them, I'm not saying you actually should say that. I'm saying you could say to them, because it's the truth. And that's how strong Jesus himself would be with some people that live in the evil consciousness. He told the Pharisees of his time, your father is the devil. I mean, it's like, you can't get much worse than that. Like in more intense, and but he was making a point. What he was saying was, you're following the guidance of the ego. But he used terminology that they used at the time. And he said, my father's of the light, and what you're listening to is dark, because it's the ego, and it's going to lead you to destruction. So you could actually retranslate that to have a very simple psychological truth statement to it. Philosophical, if you like. You can even change it into being something of quantum physics. You could run parallels to all kinds of different thought systems and say the same thing. He was just saying it in a way that fit their style at the time. So I pray that this has made good sense, and that you can all feel a little reassurance if you're feeling like you're losing it or getting exhausted in this world, because there's much to be exhausted about. But all the more reason we have to realign with teachers, healers, yes, and then the ultimate of all of them. Just go within and connect with God. Start each day with that. I feel lifted having so many people that appreciate and trust me as a teacher, and it's really, really, really an honor. So many people, reaching out and trusting, and you see great things coming of it. I think it's fantastic. There's always going to be somebody hating, and that's what people do. And I'm really appreciative, but fed too by all the friendship, the support, Facebook pages, workshops, and so on. But at the same time, guys, this world still is heavy, even for me, man. And there's times when I have to do extra work reconnecting with God itself. I don't think to myself, my friends aren't enough, my students aren't enough. Never think that. Just sometimes I recognize I need to plug into the real thing right now a little bit more than usual. I got to get back to source a little bit more than usual. So I do that on a regular basis, but it can happen. Some days it'll be just needed more than others. So I see changes coming to people's lives, and I know a lot of people are talking about heavy times. It's all going to be proportionate to our consciousness. If we lighten up in consciousness and follow what's healthy and good and light, that's what we're going to see more of. The other will still be there. This world is made with stuff, but it doesn't have to affect us quite as harshly as it once did. So hang in there. And give thanks when you have a good doctor, a good therapist, a good parent, a good whatever, anybody that's a goodness in your life. I appreciate that any of you see any goodness in me, and I'm grateful that I see goodness in you. I see amazing goodness in you when you post such great comments, not just about me, but towards each other. The support you guys give each other, like on my Friends of Michael Mirdad Facebook group. It's amazing to see the camaraderie. Someone throws it in there and says, hey man, has anybody ever struggled with such and such? Boom, in comes all these angels, being you guys. Swoops in all these angels going, yeah, I did that, and here's what I did, or you ought to do this, and check this out, and don't get down about it. Just this loving, supportive stuff. It's absolutely moving and miraculous. So join us as often as you can. We appreciate it.